And Kevin.
Hello, 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 hello. Good evening. WeatherBrains 494 for July 13th, 2015. This is my NPR voice, in case you haven't noticed.
It's going to be a great show when he uses his NPR voice.
We're calm and mellow. We have long pauses. We don't have great inflections in our voice. Hey, no, the NPR thing is not working for me. It's not working for me at all. I'm a morning zoo crew guy. So, we've got Bill Murray's our NPR guy. And Brian, you're somewhere in the middle. So anyway, this is WeatherBrains. This is the pre-show where we share boring personal stories.
Should I be insulted?
Probably. Humorous anecdotes. Work out the technical snafus and occasionally say outrageous things. And this is often where the show title is found here. So we've got, man, I'm all tangled up here. So we've got, like last week when you were gone, Brian, we never got the guest on the air with us. Never. We just never. So
couldn't get Lance on?
No, we had to do it via an audio interview. Bill Murray just broke away and did it on Skype.
Oh, dear.
And we could never get him on the Hangouts. So that the show that went out to the world, it was there, but it was edited in because we just couldn't make it happen. So that's one of the first fails we've had. So hopefully lightning will not strike twice tonight. No, but we're in the dog days of summer. Got the Home Run Derby on TV. And guess what else is happening today? Kicked off the SEC Media Days. And most people that do not have any interest in football, they have no idea what that is. But it's a situation where all of these Southeastern Conference football coaches come to our town. And they do like 3 days of media interviews with players and coaches. And it's just this like I pulled in, there was some live truck, and all these TV stations from around the country are here. I guess all the stations that our jabronis own are here doing live shots. So it's the sports guys are busy. And by the way, I was one of the panelists on a 30-minute sports show.
I heard that.
We do that every night, produced by our station. It's on a sister station here, but I thought it was a total disaster. Looking back on it, I was embarrassed, and just remind me, don't do sports again. but I got to throw in my typical collection of terms. I said bonehead several times.
There's a surprise.
Yeah, I apparently joked about a man's anatomy, and I shouldn't have gone there. I think that was tacky. It was a sports show, a bunch of guys, and you just get carried away. And it was a story about sausages, and you just don't want to go there. It went right down the. See, I sent that show down the tubes. So this was this past Friday, and they record it. But I said, I'll come on the show if you let me pick the college national champion for this upcoming season. So guess who I selected?
Alabama?
TCU. The Horned Frogs of Fort Worth.
Wow.
They're going to graduate on the show.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Cool. Well, I just think they're going to be scoring like 80 points a game. Now, true, the opposition might be scoring 50, but I think they'll be scoring 80. They'll have like these basketball scores, and
all right,
they got shut out of the whole BCS bowl playoffs and all that last year. John, you okay? You struggling there?
Just trying to give you a better picture.
Well, it sounds like John's throwing things.
It does sound.
We're going to get John a webcam. We're going to get John one of these Logitech things.
I actually have one of those somewhere. I'll see if I can hook that up.
It's called a 920C something HD, but it's it's 16 by 9, and it's amazing. Like when I go from this camera to the built-in camera, it's just really, you can tell the difference. It's stunning.
Okay.
But we're getting about 1 frame every second, and we ought to be getting about 30 frames a second off that camera. The audio's fine. Your audio's great, and most people listen, but I don't know why the video is hung up like that. So let me go in here and dig up our guests. We have an email. Bill Murray says he has a cold. A cold?
Yeah.
It's been going around.
You know, I don't think I have called in. I've not had one sick day. Now, I'm not. I probably shouldn't even say this.
Don't say
You know what's
anything.
going to happen?
Jinx it.
Tomorrow I will collapse. I don't think I've had a sick day. I've taken a sick day in like 15 years. So,
Wow.
Maybe it's my time.
Okay.
All right, guest weather brain is Jeff Fox, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Is he the guy from TCU?
No, I am.
You went to Florida State.
And TCU.
Really? I didn't know that.
Well,
Were you a whacker-backer when you were in Fort Worth?
I don't think he was there.
Jim Wacker was the coach when I was there. It was fantastic.
No, that's right. He was, wasn't he? Yes. Yes.
Whacker-backers.
Yes.
No, they had some good teams back in the 80s, but I have a hunch.
I think you might be right.
They're on to something this year. So I'm going with the TCU Horned Frogs. You got to love a team. They're the Horned Frogs.
Yes.
Kevin, I just told John and Brian, I picked to win the National Football Championship on television last Friday night, the TCU Horned Frogs.
Oh, you think so, huh?
I think they've got a chip on their shoulder. I think they're upset about the Baylor game and just being shut out of the whole thing last year, and I think they're motivated. I think they're going to be a powerhouse. And as I said on The Zone last Friday night, they're going to make everybody else look like a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. And that's probably not politically correct, and I offended somebody, and I apologize. So.
Well, I'm sorry. Apparently, I've joined the wrong hangout. Is this Sports Brains?
Yes, college football brains.
Yeah.
Typically, Bill Murray takes us down this rat hole.
Yeah.
You know,
what's that on your shirt? SP. It matches your watch band, by the way.
It does. Yeah, it's just kind of coordinating. This, you know, our son Ryan played sports for years and years and years at this high school. And whenever your son plays sports at a high school, you have to buy all this stuff, all these fundraisers. So I've got T-shirts, I've got golf shirts, I got a SP everything. I'll be wearing SP stuff until the day I die.
Wow.
So Spain Park High School.
Now the bigger question is the fact that matches your watch band acceptable to Karen? Because you said last week.
She thinks it's more acceptable. She hates this. She hates the.
No, I know. Yeah.
I mean, she thinks it's tacky. I should not walk out of the house with this. It's Bush League.
Unless you're wearing the Spain.
Unless
Park.
I'm wearing the Spain Park stuff, because Spain Park is Carolina blue. That's her color, and you know, it just kind of coordinates. So at least I can do it. In fact, I was at a summer program for kids today doing science, and one of the kids raised his hand. I love that watch, man. That's it. At least he was paying attention to something.
Well, apparently I've joined the wrong. This is Fashion Brains.
Brains. Every summer crowd I've seen this year, the kids have been marvelous. And by the way, Kevin saw me.
Yep.
At the worst behaved group of kids I have ever experienced. And I've been doing these school programs since the late 70s. Kevin was there. Cool. It was awful. It was.
And that was my first one.
Yeah, it was. And you know, typically I'm good with kids and I can control a bad crowd. I had no control. They weren't listening. It was just awful.
Yep.
So if nothing else, we have that stay. Look who's back. The Nate Man.
Oh yeah.
Hi guys.
We continued on forward on this business after that experience.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Oh boy. I'm getting a text message from Jeff. He says he was still on the air. What market is he in?
He's California, isn't it? It's 6:30.
Just wrapping up the early news block. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
And hello, kids.
Hi there.
Hi.
Howdy.
Hey, get off our lawn. Aubrey, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh,
there she is.
That mic sounds so good.
Does it sound good?
Oh, yeah.
I apologize for no earbuds. I have earbuds, but the the bear got to them.
That dog.
Just
By the way,
put the raw wires in your ears. It'll still work.
Yeah, right.
Shocking.
We'll light her up with that. No, I'm not hearing any feedback off your channel, Aubrey, so you're good.
Okay, good, because we have some activity over here, so.
No, you're clean as a whistle.
My audio sounds like garbage as usual, but yours is.
Must be my new microphone.
That new mic sounds so good.
What kind of microphone did you get?
Must be the shoes.
Show title.
The blue snow thing, the blue snowball.
You got a Kevin Sully microphone.
I did.
You're on a Yeti. Okay.
The snowball was TXCN's.
Oh.
Which is now finally off the air, by the way.
You shut him down. All right, let's get this thing started. We're all here.
Can I go turn off my studio lights here quickly for a second so I don't?
Yeah, sure.
By all means.
The garage is not air conditioned.
Wow.
That's no good.
So Jeff is in San Diego or what market there?
Palm Springs, I thought.
Wait, which one?
Okay.
WTNH in Palm Springs. Wow.
No. WTNH is New Haven, Connecticut.
That's the previous. That's where
you had been with WTNH.
Only for 27 years, though.
Only for 27.
Just a little stint.
Only 27 years. Oh, hell. By turning off one of my pieces of gear, I turned off my light.
Wow.
That's okay.
All right, cool. All right, well, let's get this sucker on the road here. We are Ooh, hello, welcome to our cable television audience. I forgot to welcome you. I'm so sorry. We've been on the air for 3 minutes. This is James. This is WeatherBrains. You know what this is. It's Monday night. We're about to start the show, so let's get this thing rolling. Everybody is in place, so we're going to click the magical record buttons to record one track and to record the other track. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! Time to talk weather. Yes, it is. WeatherBrains, episode number 494 for July 13th, 2015. We are getting into the old dog days of summer, but have a lot of things to talk about. Have a tropical storm on the board tonight. We got some tropical weather action. Yeah, Nate, it's all your fault. You originated that. So let's just go right to Nate Johnson. Nate has been AWOL for like 3 years. Where have you been?
So I've been taking ground school and working on a pilot's license, and had to take ground school. And the ground school met on Monday and Thursday evenings from 7 to 10 in a town about 45 minutes from here. And so that essentially precluded my engagement in the program. But I am glad to be back. Ground school is over. I passed my final exam. I have to take the FAA exam, and they can't get me in until next Wednesday. So I have to hope I don't forget everything between now and then.
Wow.
Well, you know what?
So explain this to me. I would love to do that. Well, first off, I don't have time to get a license, but if I did, so when you go flying, what do you go down to the plane store and buy an airplane, or do you rent somebody? I mean, how does this work?
So this gives me an opportunity to plug the Wings of Carolina Flying Club, wingsofcarolina.org. It's a nonprofit group. We have 14 airplanes ranging from little two-seat trainer Cessna 152s, which is what I fly, all the way up to a Mooney M20S with the Screaming Eagle modifications that can cruise right about 200 knots. So, and essentially you buy in, so you put in a deposit for whatever particular type of aircraft you want, and then you rent it at the Cessna rents about $65 an hour, including fuel, which is really, really good. All the planes, because we're part owners of the aircraft, essentially the way the club is set up, everybody is a fractional owner of the aircraft, so we're all covered by the insurance. I don't have to worry about that. And we've got instructors in the club that offer instruction in club aircraft, and it's fantastic. I've logged about 20 hours, probably close to soloing here in the next couple of weeks, assuming the weather holds up, and just having a blast. It's been something I've wanted.
Which airport, Nate?
Tango Alpha, the Sanford Lee County Regional Airport, also known as the Raleigh Executive Jetport.
So I'm nosy here. I mean, how much does it cost? I mean, let's get down to it. Like, you want to go fly for 2 hours. What would people expect to pay?
So in the 152, it's $65 an hour plus, and that includes fuel. And if you're soloing, you only have to pay for yourself, so you'd be out about $130. You want to throw an instructor on that, you're probably knocking on the door of $200.
That's not bad.
No, the average pilot, average student pilot working toward a private pilot's license takes about 60 or 70 flight hours, and the average is somewhere in the $7,000 to $10,000 range. But you pay for it as you go. It's not like I have to, front 10 grand and then, buy off of it. If money gets tight, I just stop flying for a while. If I've got a little extra money, a little extra time, then you fly a little more.
So when are you going to give us a ride?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Absolutely. So you have to, in the United States, if you want to take passengers, you have to be a certificated pilot of at least, you could be sport, recreational, or a private pilot. The private pilot license is the most liberating of them all. I can take as many passengers as I can fit in the airplane, which typically is going to be 1 to 3 plus me. And I'll have to get my check right. I have some other steps to do between now and then, but maybe another year from now, you guys come over, we'll go flying.
I was hoping you just pick us all up and we'll go to all these AMS and NWA meetings.
What is this y'all come on over thing?
Yeah, you're going to come pick us up, and we're going to some weather conference somewhere. This is the WeatherBrains corporate jet we've all been waiting on, right?
That's just been 10 years.
Well, he's not going to fly. He's not going to fly at 152 nonstop to Texas.
Yeah,
we can do all these shows from all these exotic locations. I think that should start on episode 500.
As somebody told me, or I read somewhere when I was reading about all this, they say you learn how to do this, and then you realize just how affordable commercial aviation really is. But there's an old joke in aviation: how do you make a small fortune in aviation?
Start with a large fortune.
There you go.
Bingo. All right.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. Try the veal.
You'll be here well past midnight.
Jeff, are you a pilot? I mean, you speak as if you have some experience.
I have, I have stick time in an F-18. Does that count?
That counts for me.
But I'm not a pilot. But I have stick time in a C-5.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's a big plane.
I have stick time in a Cessna 152 and a Diamond DA-20, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Well, I brought the conversation to a halt. See you guys later.
Well, welcome to Aviation Brains, the weekly show all about aviation. No, the next show I want to ask questions about helicopters. I know that's a whole different situation, but
I've done a story in one of those.
I've flown a helicopter.
Lucky.
I have been in helicopters around these TV stations for a long time, and that seems like an interesting beast to fly.
I'm still waiting for my first ride in Sky 5. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge to any WRAL management who might be eavesdropping tonight.
What? You've never been in your own station's helicopter?
No. I know, right?
Come on.
I know.
Wow. Right. All right, so Brian Peters was out last week. Brian was gambling at a casino in Mississippi. Welcome back, Brian. You bet you win.
Don't I wish? Yes, that would have been probably more fun than what I was doing.
Gosh, man, I was in the Las Vegas airport, and I hadn't been in that thing in a while, and man, I forgot it. All you got in that airport is just slot machines. I mean, you got to squeeze through there, get to those gates around the slots, and
it's tough to get between gates without stopping for a slot.
It's nuts. So welcome back, Brian. We are
thank you.
Hot down here in the deep south, but it's July.
It's
in
July.
Fact, I almost opened the show with Kevin's heat tips. I might roll that before the show is over, just because I'm in the mood.
Hold on, how hot was it? Because we did 108 today.
Dew point. That's the dew point.
All right, so the dew point was 39.
Dew point was so the humidity was what, 5%?
I have seen it as low as 2% this year, and I know I saw a report from North Las Vegas Airport where it was rounded down to 0.
Wow.
Wow. Goodness gracious.
It was like 140-degree dew point spread.
Our dew point was 75, Jeff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is what we talk about all the time, because people out in the desert, for those who don't know, I forecast in Palm Springs, and our average high temperature today is 107, and the average goes to 108 on the 17th. That's the highest of the season. But when I talk about like monsoonal flow and and getting a little humid, we talk about it as East Coast heat. as opposed to what we have. We're going to get a little east. You'll feel like you're in New Jersey.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions for Jeff. This is going to be a great show. I got all kind of questions for Jeff. So strap in, and we're going to formally introduce him here in just a second. But anyway, Brian, it's good to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Were you sweating or perspiring today?
Yes. I do both, actually.
D, all of the above.
All of the above. Absolutely.
Dr. John Scala is our big brain on the show here. And the man with the hair of an angel. So, John, how are you?
Great, James. We were talking about two things I want to comment on. I've had the opportunity to fly on 5 different research aircraft. That has been, through my career, that has been awesome.
That's cool.
And actually have a little
make me ill, by the way, with all of your. I've flown in a C5 and I've flown in research. I'm tooling along at 95 knots, just hoping I don't fall out of the air.
Hey, I've done that too. I actually have some seat time in a 172, so
That's still faster than my 152.
This is true.
It's also about twice as expensive per hour, so it is what it is.
It is. Have you looked at the dew points across Illinois right now? Springfield is reporting 87 over 81.
Oh!
That's a tropical rainforest.
That's insane.
That's like the Amazon in Chicago. I mean, oh boy.
Yeah, the time that I spent in the Amazon, I think the highest dew point we measured was 83, and then it rains. So this is impossible almost.
No, when you see an 80-degree dew point, that's a flag. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah.
You know what, John? I got a DM from Chris Jones on Twitter just a short time ago. He said, speaking of dew points, what is the highest you have personally observed? And for me, I don't remember. But also, are dew point daily record highs, are they kept for cities? He says he's never seen it. Do you know?
That's a really good question. As I said, for me personally, 83 is the highest dew point I experienced. Wow. I don't know that is, archived.
I've never seen it.
Yeah,
that's insane. I mean,
I saw an 80 in my market, and again, we're in the southeast United States. Once, to my recollection, Brian, have you seen it down here more than once?
No, maybe. Considering that the career spanned over 45 years, probably a couple of times, but I don't think anything higher than 80 or 81, maybe.
So, and I saw some of these Cape values today, printing 5,000 joules per kilogram.
Oh, last night they were 6,000 across southern Minnesota ahead of that developing line.
Wow.
Goodness.
I don't know how many of you guys have gone to Bob Hart's site, coolwix.com, but he breaks out the highest dew points. So over the last 3 hours, JVW, Raymond, Mississippi, 87.8 reported dew point. And at
that's bogus.
Okay. VVG, the villages in Florida, 86 even, 30 C.
Mm. Wow.
But the list, 33 stations have reported between 28 and 29 C in the last 3 hours.
Wow.
Pretty much all of them in the midsection of the country.
Wow.
Awesome. And by the way, but let me give Kevin a chance here before bringing Aubrey and our formally introduced Jeff. Kevin is in Wichita Falls, Texas, and Kevin, one of the things I mentioned on the air tonight, I did a flashback to this date in 1980. And I know that you were a young whippersnapper, but the 1980 heat wave was just historic. It was the metrics. No matter what metric you use, it was historic. And on this date in 1980, in my market, it was 106. And I want to say, in Wichita Falls, it peaked at 119 that summer, didn't it?
I can check that in mere moments, but yes, most of the records here, because we still run the almanac here on the Late Show, and most of the days are 1980 records, and I'll check it while y'all talk.
Yeah, no, but Wichita Falls are just brutal, and Kevin is in Wichita Falls, but Aubrey Herbanowitz is in Harrisonburg, Virginia. where there was some weather action here, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. And our dew point today was about 66, which is very, very high for the Shenandoah Valley. We had some severe flooding in a town called Woodstock, Virginia. 4.5 inches of rain between about 3 and 7 a.m. caused severe, severe flooding in that town. Little mesolow developed very early this morning, and that helped to cause the severe flooding. So a little stretch. 4 to 4.5 inches, and we have a town that was underwater, and now they're recovering, and we're hoping that the storms tonight looks like they're staying south, but tomorrow could be a different story. So gonna have to see.
Yeah, and we've got active weather tonight. We'll talk about this in the weather roundup. The one thing I have not had time to look at the radar, but as we do this show, we've got the home run derby going on. It's St. Louis, or I'm sorry, in Cincinnati. At the Great American Ballpark, yeah, on the river. And I know that there's storms up there. Are there any storms close to the stadium up there?
Not yet. The tornado watch does not extend that far southeast, but it's got most of Indiana right now, and there's a pretty significant storm south of Indianapolis.
They had some good stuff earlier today.
Yeah, that was the line that went through earlier, right? Which is what's just south of you.
And there was an interesting discussion on the tweeters today. What was that thing, a derecho? And we'll talk all about this in the weather roundup. But Aubrey, bring in our guest before he totally hangs up on us.
Before we go, after all that build up, 109 in 1969 is today for Wichita Falls.
Okay, yeah, but here's your next thing I want you to go look up in the weather vault. What was the hottest in Wichita Falls during that heat wave? I want to say it was 119.
Okay. Oh, is that what you were meaning? I thought you meant for today. Okay.
No, I mean for the whole summer.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Aubrey, go.
All right, I am pleasure to bring in our guest weather brain for tonight, Jeff Fox, who is now in Southern California working with KMIR?
KMIR.
KMIR, and he is formerly from, working in New England with WTNH for 27 years, did weather in Connecticut for just about 37 years before now moving to California.
Don't make me that old. 30.
And as he was mentioning earlier, the average high this time of year is almost 110 degrees. He is doing TV not just in Southern California, but he built a weather studio, get this, in his garage and broadcast from home. So, Jeff, talk to us about this idea. How did this come about? And number two, how did you get approval for this?
Well, it came about probably the idea spawned maybe 10 years ago. I thought it was an interesting idea. I don't know that the equipment would have supported the idea 10 years ago. I got a call in December from KMIR. I knew the general manager at the time. He had been a Magid consultant, and he knew of my work. And he said, "You're in California. Come on, move to Palm Springs." And I said, "No, I just moved to Orange County." And we made a deal. And I said, "I can produce a show that that viewers will never know." Now, we don't hide it from them, but we don't advertise it. That viewers will not know that I'm not in the studio with the anchors. And that's what we've been able to do. This is not something that I convinced them to do after the fact. This is literally a term of employment. Or in this case, I'm not even really an employee because I work for my studio.
So how are you set up? Tell us about your garage setup.
Okay, well, I use what's called a TriCaster. That's my control room. I get all my graphics from the WSI box, and using Prism, everything gets FTP to me as soon as the data comes in. So all the satellite maps, all the temperature maps, everything that I would need on a regular basis automatically comes to me. Then, with remote control, I can go into that box and create new graphics if and when they're needed. And so I do that on a daily basis also. But what I play back here is, if you were to use a Weather Central or a WSI machine at work, what you're doing is you're melding the data and the background maps in real time. What I'm doing is I'm having them made into an animation, into a movie, if you will, sent to me over the internet, and then I play back that animation when I'm on the air. But everything is here, chroma key, I can do pretty much everything I can do from the studio, and I can do a number of things that I could never do from the studio because I'm literally directing my show.
So are there any limitations to this?
Well, I don't see the anchors, but that would be typical of any time that you were on a live shot. The delay, which most people in broadcasting want to know, is only 0.8 of a second. I have very high-speed internet access at home. It's 20 up, 150 down, and I use about 10 of that up to get to the station. It is in exceptionally high-quality HD. Our chief engineer has told me it looks better than the studio cameras.
Well, that's some pretty good quality. And I'll have to say, as a disclaimer, I am from Connecticut. I'm from Wallingford, Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut, and I watched Jeff Fox as I was a kid. And
I thought I paid off everybody who could say that.
Yeah, I know. I was never one of those kids that grew up wanting to be the meteorologist or, the person on TV. That came way, way later. So this is just, my brief memory as a child. So talk to us about how it was to move from Connecticut out to California, because I hear the weather's a little different from Connecticut to California.
I think I can answer that really, really easily. My license plate on my car is snowless. So I believe that answers the question right there. I mean, we've done away with winter, and for the most part, we've done away with humidity.
Do you miss the winters at all?
No. I don't miss the winters at all, and guys, I don't miss forecasting snow, because as good as you can get, as hard as you work, I have yet in over 30 years to get a snowstorm that I actually got 100% right. And it's when we try and forecast QPF for snow, what a crapshoot that is. With all due respect to the models, I think that QPF is the thing that they do the worst. And I don't know, I don't know how many of you guys were around like for the LFM days when I began.
I was.
Yeah. All right,
Amen.
James. All right, okay, James and Brian. When you got the QPF from the LFM, do you remember what you had to do with it?
Throw it away.
Well, yeah.
Even I know
You
that.
had to do a lot with it, that's for sure.
You actually had to cut it in half because somewhere in the calculations they missed something and it came out as twice what it was supposed to be, but they were scared to change it because there were other things that were already programmed that were running off that. So the LFM stayed with 2 times the QPF until it was retired.
And how many layers did the LFM have?
Oh God, no! I mean, come on! It was incredibly rudimentary. I was doing Atari weather at that time. Come on.
You were walking both ways in the snow, and you liked it.
When I was at WGRZ in Buffalo, we had the original color graphics computer before they went to the Krememkos.
Yeah, Terry Kelly's group, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it used to look like Atari weather on TV. I mean, it was this low res, 8-bit, really grainy, awful stuff. But it was the best we could do. I have an interesting problem now for you guys. I'm in a market that is so geographically unusual that the computer models that can see out 5, 6, 7 days, like the GFS, basically don't see my valley. I have an 11,000-foot mountain on the west. I have a 12,000-foot mountain on the east, and I'm blocked to the north with mountains. And none of these really show up well enough on the long-range forecasts to be able to use them ever, literally, for where I am. You have to even on the long range where, you know, humans can't go, you have to massage it because we have these obstacles to rain. There's a reason we only get 5.5 inches of rain a year.
So you're saying the crap apps don't work well in your market, the phone automated apps.
I'm saying when you have an 11,000-foot peak within a couple of miles of an airport that's 200 feet above sea level, somehow the GFS can't comport that.
So let's go back to the Atari weather. Let's talk about your early days. How did you get started in weather and meteorology? What was the draw for you?
Well, okay, so I was in Buffalo, and I hosted a show in Buffalo called PM Magazine. Some of you may remember PM Magazine, and I knew nothing about the weather and didn't care about it. But they had somebody who was doing weekend weather who couldn't pronounce Lake Havasu City when she gave the highest temperature in the country, and a bunch of other things. And they said, well, Jeff, just read the Weather Service forecast and you'll be golden. And it took me about a week to realize this is really a lot of fun. I really enjoy the math. I really enjoy the science. And holy crap, it's the early 1980s, and they're letting me play with computers. So I went out and I became, as we say, edumacated in this weather thing. And then later, I went out and formalized that.
And so where did you go from Buffalo?
I went from Buffalo to Connecticut. And I was in Connecticut for, well, like 30 years. But I was lucky enough, if you can consider this lucky, to be there when Hurricane Gloria hit Connecticut. I worked with a person who was so petrified by this storm, she said, I can't go on during this. I'm not going to say the right thing. And so I was on the air pretty much live for, you know, a couple of days. And that really helped. That really helped establish any kind of credibility that I needed in the market, and that people knew that I really did give a damn about them. And that's really important for people to understand that you have their best interests at heart and that you can give them actionable information. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, Jeff, I was wondering, since you were in Buffalo, did you get your fill of lake effect snow?
Oh my God! Well, the day my wife and I went to get our marriage license, we had to drive to Erie, Pennsylvania.
Which is where I was just at last week.
Okay, so I lived in Buffalo, near downtown. I drove through South Buffalo. We went into flurries. Yeah. Farther into the South towns, it was snowing heavily. Drove to Erie. About 30 miles later, we got into the sunshine. And when we returned, every bit of weather was in exactly the same place.
Yep. I know that drive exactly. In fact, you know, there's vineyards out there in southwestern New York along that high rise.
Yeah. The Boston Hills. That's what they're called. That's where you can go skiing near Buffalo. The only thing that saves Buffalo is that it's virtually flat. So even when it snows, you know, a foot or 2 feet, you can get around. But I don't want to try it again. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought probably you'd get your fill that way.
Well, I definitely remember Hurricane Gloria vividly. It was one of the most memorable storms from when I was a kid, and we lost power, and were streaming the radio from our basement, and it took down one of the biggest trees in my backyard, and we played on it for months. And I remember being so upset when my dad actually had to get rid of the tree because it was rotting out. But Hurricane Gloria is one of the most memorable events, and also the storm of the century, 1993. Do you have any other memorable events from Connecticut? What are some of the most memorable storms?
Well, obviously the most memorable are the two that came recently in Sandy and the Halloween snowstorm. Mm-hmm. I don't know if everybody realizes this, but for the Halloween snowstorm, the president of the local electric utility went on in front of TV cameras and said, "Well, this was a surprise."
Oh, lovely.
Well, ask me how long it took for him to eat those words, because thankfully Ryan Hanrahan, who I'm sure most of you know, Ryan was very vociferous and brought out all the ammunition. But the guy was trying to, cover his own butt because they really, they let the state down. Was almost 2/3 of the state was without power. It's crazy.
Well, I have to say that back in February, March, watching some of your tweets and stuff, I was kind of jealous of the weather in Southern California with the 70s and 78 degrees and wonderful afternoons. But 107, 100 plus degrees is not so pleasant right now. So being in the desert, what is the drought that's affecting California? What's the impact in your area since it is more of a desert?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second. The answer is that in the world, the Coachella Valley, which is the area that encompasses Palm Springs, is a taker. There is not enough water, even in good years, in the Coachella Valley to supply its own water. And there is an underground aquifer, but, that would be drained in a hurry. So there is water brought in from the Colorado River, and that is infused into the underground aquifer, and it is that which is pumped up overground. But really, and it's difficult to say this because you don't want to give people the wrong impression, whether it rains or not in the Palm Springs area does not make any difference for our drought situation. Same thing with Los Angeles. The vast majority of the water for the LA area comes by gravity flow from the Owens Valley. That if you saw the movie Chinatown, this was the whole big thing with water rights and everything. And this was William Mulholland of Mulholland Drive. He's the one who made this unbelievable engineering project. This was before he said a dam that wouldn't break broke, but they brought in enough water, all gravity fed, no electricity, to the Los Angeles area that it still supplies enough water today, as long as there's water in the Owens Valley, which now there is not.
Now, is there a little bit of optimism building with El Nino forming?
Yeah, but of course, El Nino is not a sure thing, but obviously the stronger that we see the signs for El Nino, the better that looks. And the good thing is, the way California gets its drinking water is via snow as opposed to via rain, meaning that even if we get an unbelievably large amount, we don't lose as much to runoff or perk as places in the East would, where you get a significant portion of your drinking water just from rainfall.
Well, Jeff, what are your biggest forecast challenges out there? I would suspect it's probably QPF and temperature, right? And that's really what runs the deal.
In Palm Springs?
Yeah.
I said tonight on the air that it's much more difficult to have rain in July than it is to forecast it. If you look at Buffkit from the 12Z GFS today, you'll notice that on Saturday it has 3/100ths of an inch of QPF and no clouds.
No.
So one of those. I told the viewers tonight that the forecast for the weekend is carved in yogurt.
I want to know more about this home studio. So I see behind you a chroma key wall. And so you are in the studio, and you've got a TriCaster.
Yes.
So, do you put the supers in, or they do that back at the television station?
They do. They put the supers in, but that's something I could do if I wanted. Basically, what it is I have a little TV studio, a TV station here, and I direct by writing macros. So my show will consist of a number of macros that bring in different animations. It always plucks the most current one out of my server, and then I have a little button, like as if I had a weather box here, and it does pretty much the same thing. It advances through my sequence. I have a Blackmagic studio camera with a prompter on it. Those of you who don't get to see reverse image, when you build your own studio, you can have a prompter. You know, you say to yourself, I will not be those other bosses that I've had in the past. I'll make sure I get the equipment I need.
So you don't have any gear from WSI or whoever in your house. You're just getting the data from the station via FTP, right?
Right. And here's there are a number of ways I want to go with it. Obviously, the people at KMIR have been unbelievable to me. First of all, because they took a chance as this was totally unproven. No one else is doing this anywhere. And after around 7 months, I can tell you now that it works really well. But they know that my plan is to either take on other television stations, or I've been playing around with special purpose forecasts for internet, for specific sites that you wouldn't think of as sites that are weather dependent, but have outcomes that are where the weather enters into it, like sports, for instance, or fantasy sports. And I've been putting out feelers trying to see if people would be interested in that. The other thing that I can do from here is if you have an employee who's going on maternity leave or personal leave, or you're in a pinch and you need someone to fill in, here I am. And it's I'm a vendor as opposed to an employee. You can just call me up and here I am.
Since you're not by the news anchors and the other people at the station, do you think that takes away from the camaraderie or the team spirit there at the station?
I thought it might in the beginning, but they're very game. I've always been someone who's been able to ad-lib with the anchors. I mean, first of all, I worked in the studio with them for a month and a half first. But the first thing I said to them when I came to the station was, you may say anything you want to me. I'll listen to everything you say, and I promise I will respond to anything you say or anything you ask. Once they got comfortable with that concept, even when I'm away, they will ask me questions. And they know, for instance, I'll always look at the kicker before the kicker runs, even if I have to find it online. So they know that it's just as good as if I'm there with them, and that I'll always be responsive.
So let's say a station in Cheyenne, Wyoming wants you to do their weather. You're committed to your station there, and you say you want to do more. Will you start? You can't do all these at one time. You can't.
No, but
them out.
Let's talk about East or Central time zones. So my newscasts run in the East at 8, 9, midnight, and 2 a.m., which means that I'm in conflict with almost no one's newscasts. So I could easily take on a station in those time zones without a conflict there. In the case of severe weather, or where more diligent coverage was needed, it's part of my deal, and they understand that there might be times in the desert where the forecast for the next 3 days is sunny and 107, that I may have to tape out every once in a while. It's something I have not done as of yet, but it's something that we've discussed in the past.
So going back to this whole thing is fascinating to me. See, this is what we need, Brian. Me and you, pal. We need to do this thing in our house. Get out of this closet.
Well,
go to the house. And
James,
come on. Yes.
James, it's not that expensive. Now, I'm not saying it's cheap. You're going to reach into your pocket, and I have a long time in the business, and I, save my pennies. But it cost me about the price of a small car to do this. And so now, if I took on another station, my additional cost would be zero.
So what are you using? Like, you've got all these graphics from the TV station. What hardware and software are you using to generate those graphics that go on the air?
It's the WSI, the WSI system.
But I mean, at your house.
The TriCaster. All right. So here, a satellite image comes in. The WSI box sees the satellite image comes in, and that triggers the Prism program, which now creates a brand new animation. Usually that takes about 30 seconds. It sends it to my server at home, which takes about another 20 seconds, and then it's available for me to play.
So you're not using like a PC and PowerPoint. You're putting this straight in the TriCaster.
Yes. Everything is a PC is what I've learned here. Well, first of all, when I built this studio, I thought I was going to be sort of a TV engineer, and I've learned that really what I am is an IT manager, because every part of this is IT. Everything is digital. It's it's a whole brave new world. But yeah, I can play anything back. Or, look, I've done it with a number of people, excuse me, where I've had them cut little 5-second, hey, Jeff, this is Joe Schmo, and boy, it's been pouring like crazy in Dubuque today. Now, I can play that little 5-second clip that somebody, a meteorologist somewhere, a friend, has cut on their cell phone. That's my wife, who obviously does not know I'm on the air.
I can't believe she's not a WeatherBrains viewer. I thought she'd be back there watching this show.
If I told you what my wife was doing right now, you would not believe it.
show title right there. Yes.
My wife is playing poker.
What?
Yes.
Oh boy.
So that's how you afford
My wife plays poker about 3 days a week.
Whoa! So that's how you're affording the studio at home.
Wow.
So, but anyway, so I have a small server here, and that server is hooked up to the TriCaster, and all my computers are networked together, so I can, for instance, take in a live camera from Huntington Beach, California. They have live cameras on the beach. Take it in on my laptop here, screen grab it live, bring it to the TriCaster, and show it on the air. Or that little 5-second soundbite from someone like Aubrey, I can play, because you'd never risk something like that live, because your director would never be fast enough to pick up the cues and do it tight. I can do it tight because I start it, and I can actually have the computer automatically go to my next map as soon as the voice is done. It's all programmed in.
I got you. So let's talk about audience and television and everything else. The one question I ask everybody on this show that does television is this: why, Jeff, should I stay up until the late news to watch you to find out what the weather is going to do when I've got this phone? I can get it anytime I want to.
Because I can give you actionable information that is explained, and when you leave watching me, you will understand what you have to do to be prepared for the next day's weather and the weather for the week ahead. It's much more important to give good, actionable information than it is to be 106 for my forecast or 108. That is inconsequential. Everybody on TV, we all use the same tools. All of our forecasts are pretty much right every day. Most of us are right for at least a few days before we start to go south. What I can do is I can explain. I am a teacher, and that's why I'm important. And I will entertain you in my market where weather isn't always of great interest.
So I go to my crap app here, and it says in Palm Springs, the weather tomorrow, it's going to be sunny and 106. I watch you tonight. You say you can tell us what action to take. What would you tell me about tomorrow's weather?
Okay, so what I'm talking about. So what I'm talking about is that we're going to be continued to be dry, because in August we start picking up the monsoonal flow, and we have these high temperatures and high humidity. Also, we have had nearby big cities like Phoenix recently start having rain and flooding. So my viewers are interested, if we're getting that same, they can see that same streaming flow. Why aren't we getting it? So I can put all of this in perspective. The biggest takeaway for my viewers tonight was that it is going to be dry this week, and it looks like it is going to be humid and maybe rain this weekend. And that's a big deal, because when it's 107 and humid, most people don't go outside.
That makes good sense. So here's the next question. Engaging with your audience on social media. Do you dabble in that at all? And if so, how?
Yeah, well, I'm active on Twitter and Facebook. Of course, I do a sort of tease weather forecast for the next day. That's on Facebook. That I do here. Obviously, I do it all here at home. Yeah, so that's how. It's an interesting market, James. It's market 148, I think, or 147. It's a small market for all intents and purposes, except it's an extremely sophisticated market because we have a lot of people there with a lot of money.
Yeah, don't beat around the bush. Just come out with it.
Do you want me to tell you? We have, and I say this in the fondest of ways, a huge portion of our audience is either gray or gay. Palm Springs
show title. I mean, we got all kind of show titles here.
Palm Springs is over 50% gay. That's an unbelievable number. And we have a great number of retirees who came here because they could afford to live here. Many of whom only live here, 7, 8 months a year. Go somewhere else when it gets hot. Snowbirds. So it's a somewhat different market. Most of them come from bigger cities or from the desert themselves. And whatever market 146 and 148 is, I suspect that our product is somewhat more sophisticated than those would be.
So you don't, again, you're in the desert, and obviously it doesn't rain a lot. You don't have a lot of storms. Is there any occasion where you have to do longer form television past these regular newscasts? Like for many of us, we deal with tornadoes.
Yeah. Oh,
and floods
me,
and
I
all
was
this.
in, I was in Connecticut, so I understand. Right. There has not yet. Our biggest problem in the desert usually would be flash flooding. And we have the kind of flash flooding that you see on those videos in YouTube where it's perfectly sunny, it's been dry all day, and all of a sudden a wall of water comes down a dry river wash. Because remember, we have these really tall, exceptionally steep mountains, steeper than the Rockies, that are located adjacent to all our cities. We also and I can't believe I've gone this long and haven't mentioned it, we have a really interesting geographic feature at the north end of the valley called the San Gorgonio Pass. That is pretty much the only way that the wind can go from the Pacific Ocean east other than climbing over the mountains. And so the San Gorgonio Pass, thanks to Bernoulli, has nearly constant wind and 4,000 plus windmills. And I'm not talking about, here's a guy in his backyard. I'm talking about with blades as long as the wings on a 737. It is an unbelievable sight.
Goodness gracious. So, yeah.
What'd you say, John?
And sound as well. I mean, those things they're robbing the atmosphere of momentum to generate their motion, and that's got to be creating a pretty consistent, persistent sound.
Sure, but it is located in a place that is so consistently dry and consistently windy that it is uninhabitable.
Hey, how much time do you get in a newscast to do weather, out of curiosity, Jeff?
The main weather's 2, a deuce.
Wow.
But I'm on three times in a 30-minute show.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't want to wear out my welcome.
Have you ever worked a morning shift out there since you got this home studio?
I did. I feel well. Our morning person got sick, but it was while I was still in Palm Springs.
Ah. Okay.
I don't know that there may be too much interplay necessary. I don't know. You know what? You probably could do it, but I would think for a morning show, the studio might be a better way to go.
Yeah, that is a very rigorous shift. It's hard. Brian, you worked that shift before. I've done it once in the last 18 years, and I'm probably not going to do that again anytime soon.
I agree.
Do you do radio, Jeff, at all? Since you got this home facility out there, it's like radio's a natural.
No, so, you know, I used to do mornings in Philadelphia years ago when I was in radio before television. It's my wife again. She still doesn't know I'm on the air.
I can't believe she's not watching you on WeatherBrains. That's
hold on
stunning.
a second. Hold on a
just
second.
bring her on the air live. We'd like to answer phone. Put the speaker.
Let me hold on. She'd kill me if I did that. Han,
another show title.
I'm on WeatherBrains on the computer.
What's that?
James, she just said you're what? It was the thing that was on the calendar yesterday. That's okay. All right, I love you. How are you doing?
How much have you won?
Yeah. What are we up?
The guys won. Everybody wants to know if you've won today. She is up. We can't say how much. All right, I love you. See you later. Bye. Let me say this. Let me say this about my wife. My wife is the perfect person to be a really good poker player. She is organized, she is dedicated, and she is focused. And you cannot get her to tilt. She is really, really good.
So Jeff, let me ask you a question back to your studio setup for a second. Where do you park?
Much to the chagrin of my neighbors, on the street. I was parking on the little lip on my garage, and the homeowners association sent us a letter saying, "No, I don't think so, Jeff." So I live in Irvine in Orange County, which is a planned community, and every house is in a different color as long as it's beige.
So if you get an earthquake, are you the station scientist? Do you go on the air and have to explain geology?
Yes, and we our threshold is a 3.0, because if we reacted to earthquakes lower than that, we would be doing it all the time. The San Andreas Fault runs on the west side of my market. It's in my market.
Wow.
Through the little San Bernardino Mountains. Let me say this to you guys and to everybody watching. When we're done, take out like Google Earth and look at the Coachella Valley. It is the perfect protected valley. It is closed on 3 sides with the exception of the San Gorgonio Pass. The only place it's open is to the south, where the Salton Sea, you know, that the body of water on the maps that looks like the giant penis. That's
another show title. I mean, we got like 18 show titles in there. This is great.
Your cable people, James. Oh, I feel for them.
We're going right down the tubes, and we're going to be by the TV station.
Take a look at it, and you tell me if I'm wrong. And by the way, the Salton Sea was an engineering mistake. It is not a natural body of water. Anyway.
Of course not. And don't tell anybody it was a mistake either. That was intentional.
Okay. All right. But after 4 hours, we had to call our physician. So.
All right. Well, before we totally go down the tubes, let's stop for a minute. We've got to hit Professor Peters in WeatherBrains 101. We've got Tony Rice. We got some big astronomy news here. We're going to get a look at Pluto here. We've got the weather roundup. A lot of things are happening. We have a tropical storm to talk about. We've got email from Aubrey. I bet you the email inbox is about to blow up. We've got picks of the week and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
Around sunrise on numerous mornings during summer months, you may have noted an interesting donut pattern on your favorite NWS Doppler radar image. This feature is known as a roost ring and occurs when the radar beam detects birds departing from their roosting site around dawn to look for breakfast or insects. Yes, that's right. The NWS Doppler radar network is sensitive enough to detect bugs and birds. The unique donut pattern of these rings is a result of the birds departing from their roosting sites in all directions, generally in roughly equal densities. As they travel further from the roosting site and reach higher altitudes, they are detected by radar until they either rise above or drop below the radar beam. The birds act as a target and reflect radar energy back to the radar, resulting in reflectivity signatures being displayed on the radar as if it was precipitation. Now, purple martins and starlings are 2 types of birds that I have seen identified with these rings. These birds often return to the same roosting sites in the evening, and oftentimes these sites are located near bodies of water. As a result, the roost rings are often observed in the same locations on radar over the course of several mornings. Now, roost rings may appear with or without rain on the radar, but are the most conspicuous when rain is not occurring. You might also note a beam coming from the radar site, which coincides with radar detection of interference from the sun's energy as it peaks over the horizon at sunrise. Now, rings usually appear on radar during the morning's departure and not so much during their evening return. Atmospheric conditions have a big impact on the path that the radar beam travels. On a typical early morning, the beam is bent slightly downward due to an inversion in the atmosphere, so it detects objects closer to the surface better. This is not usually the case during the evening when an inversion is not typically in place. Another fascinating aspect of an important tool for unraveling the weather. If you have a weather question, drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
Tomorrow, July 14th, is the 50th anniversary of Mariner 4's flyby of Mars. This was the first to return images of another planet from deep space. 22 images, in fact. This week, it will pass within 7,800 miles, about an Earth diameter, on July 14th at 11:50 UTC. New Horizons will phone home at 4:43 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Then we'll know whether the mission, its several thousand images, spectra, and other data taken during the flyby were successful when that message reaches mission control at the Applied Physics Laboratory near Baltimore, Maryland at 9:02 p.m., some 4.5 hours after it was sent. The process of downloading all those images and data will take months, but a few will arrive and are expected to be released on Wednesday. Live NASA TV coverage of the Phone Home event begins at 8:30 p.m. Eastern and runs until 10 p.m., with a briefing on New Horizons' health. Initial close-up images of the surface of Pluto and its moons are expected to be released at 3 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday in a live media briefing on NASA TV, available on finer satellite and cable providers and to anyone via www.nasa.gov/NASATV. Among the data that researchers will be downloading over the next couple of months will be studies of Pluto's thin atmosphere. Space weather simulations developed by Dushan Adrasil of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center show Pluto immersed in low solar wind densities during this flyby period. This will be followed by a large merge region of coronal mass ejections, which could significantly compress Pluto's atmosphere, according to Adrasil. This possible breakdown of Pluto's atmosphere was one of the major concerns of the New Horizons team, so we're getting there just in time. Elsewhere in the sky, the International Space Station is making appearances in the early morning skies again. Best viewing will be in the lower Midwestern states and upper Rockies. The rest of the U.S. will have better viewing opportunities in the morning and after sunset later in the month. Follow me at RTP Hokie for live tweets about the New Horizons mission and more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink, by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
I just see that Aubrey just hung up on us. Who made her mad? Actually, she left to said her parents are in town. She has to take off and go see them, and it was a pleasure. And she'll do a quadruple email. We ought to do all email next week. So keep the emails coming. We promised we were going to allocate a large block of time for Aubrey for an email next week. But this is the weather roundup. We go around the table and share what's happening, and I guess our East Coast correspondents here are closer to our tropical system. John, you got a loop going there.
Yeah, this is a visible loop actually going into the IR now of Tropical Storm Claudette, and you can see the center has been completely exposed due to the westerly shear. So this is moving well to the east and northeast of the mid-Atlantic coast. It's now almost east of Montauk. On its way into the North Atlantic, does not pose a threat for us.
But this thing just kind of came out of nowhere. You know, the NHC guys kind of indicated they weren't going to, name this thing, and all of a sudden, boom, it happened. And from the looks of things, I think it was a good call. I think they needed to.
Oh, I think so too. It was beneath a weak short wave that moved over us, in fact, brought some thunderstorms here several days ago, and then it kind of meandered basically over the Gulf Stream and had some warmer water, and was able to protect the core well enough that it had a closed circulation.
Yeah, so it's headed up toward the Canadian Maritimes, and other than that, the tropics are pretty quiet, and there's the big picture there, and goodness, John, got a lot of severe weather in the Midwest.
We've got everything here. Look at the anticyclone centered over Kevin Selly.
The Death Ridge.
Oh, my goodness.
Ridge.
Yesterday, the temperature at 500 millibars at Del Rio, Texas was -4.
Whoop! That's pretty warm.
That's pretty warm.
Wow, that's nuts.
Look off the Mexican coast. There's Hurricane Dolores. And then further to the west is, I think it's Tropical Storm Enrique. So we have a lot of action. There's the MCS that came out of Minnesota last night, moved across Chicago this morning. This was a killer for O'Hare. They ended up having so much air traffic control problems this morning. But that is now moved all the way into Virginia.
And North Carolina, I'll have you know.
Yeah.
And
South
again,
Carolina.
John, this is not a derecho.
No, this is not. A derecho has a damage path of 240 miles in length, and there has to be wind gusts somewhere in there of 70 to 75 miles an hour. So, no, this is not a derecho.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some damage, but I've not seen a whole lot of reports from that. And tomorrow could be fairly active convectively, I guess, Nate, where you are, huh?
Yep, we'll probably have this round roll through. The HRRR is suggesting we'll have another round rolling through central and eastern North Carolina early tomorrow afternoon. That's after we had a tornado warning in the extreme southern part of my viewing area this morning at 11:45. Got the heart rate up a little bit, and then got us ready for this line that's rolling through now. Had some trees down in the Triad, the Piedmont Triad of North Carolina, and expecting a little bit more of that through the evening here. And then, yeah, at least another round or two tomorrow before things try to settle down Wednesday and Thursday.
I guess it's kind of the negative. You get a break in the heat out there, and that opens the door for severe weather.
Yes, it does. Well, and northwesterly flow. It's the other weatherman's flow.
Ring of fire.
We'll take it. It keeps us out of the 100s, which, 100 over 75. I'll take 105 over 32. That's no big deal. That's nothing. But 105 over 75, no, thank you.
We are entering. I'm sorry. Go ahead, James. I apologize.
I was going to ask you what's going on. How hot was it in Palm Springs today?
It was 108. But the bigger deal is it's fire season. We just had the lake fire in the San Bernardino Mountains. If people have not been out west, it's difficult to understand how America from the Rockies out to the west is very, very different, including huge areas of virtually inaccessible land. And if a fire starts, like the lake fire, it can quickly grow. I believe the lake fire was over 25,000 acres involved over the course of the fire. We had a fire near me in Santiago Canyon this morning. Boy, they do not take long before helicopters or the tankers go up. These fires are not to be screwed with. They spread fast, and everything is flammable.
What is the core season for wildfires there?
Once the rainy season starts, as soon as the rainy season starts. But, when you have temperatures that are triple digits and you have relative humidity, that's in the 5% or lower range, you're going to find that every bit of moisture is sucked out of everything on the ground. I mean, we're used to here seeing hillsides that are green in the spring and then brown the rest of the year. And as long as they're brown, they'll burn. Mm-hmm. And then after they burn, then people start talking about the burn areas, because those become susceptible to landslides, because the ground is so steep in so many places that it takes the roots of the trees and the plants to keep the hillsides together. And once that goes away, when it rains next winter, those hills come tumbling down.
Have you had any experience with this prior to moving? Because it sounds like you're very knowledgeable, or did you have to learn all this after moving to California?
I think like most of us, once you get interested in weather, it's fascinating in every regard. But my wife and I travel to California probably once or twice a year for the last 25 or 30 years. We really liked it here. So it was something that I was thinking of, though I have to tell you, the weather is actually better in reality than it looked on paper. You see these movies of the Hollywood mogul sitting around his pool in the bathrobe, and the butler is coming, bringing out the coffee in the morning. I get that now. That's the way the weather is. You want to sit in your front of your pool with your butler. And the birds sound like a Disney movie.
We were at the Grand Californian there in Anaheim about 4 weeks ago, and yeah, it was
10
awesome.
miles from me.
Yeah, it was awesome, and we went to an Angels game, and where we are, you go to a baseball game in the evening, it is hot, man. You were sweating like a mule. It is just sultry, and it was like an October evening at that baseball game. It was unbelievable.
James, I don't know that we've run our air conditioner at night more than a half a dozen times since we've been here for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's every night it gets, goes into the 60s.
Wow, 40-degree diurnal.
Wow.
Well, no. Hold on. You guys have to understand, I work in Palm Springs, but I live in Orange County. That's, 70 air miles and often 30-degree differences.
Wow.
I've done 11 o'clock newscasts where we were still in the mid-90s in Palm Springs.
So what is your monsoon season, or say yours for Palm Springs? What's the monsoon season there?
It would be August, and usually there's no widespread, cirriform rain, but we'll get a little bit of convection, and that's enough. I believe that the average rainfall for July, the entire month of July in Palm Springs, is 2/100ths of an inch.
That's brutal.
We've had days where we got a trace of rain that either tied or broke the record, and the record in Palm Springs goes to 1893. You got to ask yourself, who was living in Palm Springs before roads, before electricity, before air conditioning in 1893?
I think it was Brian Peters. Brian, how was it out there in the Wild West?
Oh, it was spectacular. Weather observations.
There you go. He was the observer. So, again, a couple of quick things for Jeff, and we'll do picks of the week here. You are living in Orange County, so you're living in the Los Angeles market. How would you describe Los Angeles weather on television? What's it like? Good, bad, ugly? What are your thoughts?
Some people are really good. I really like Dallas Raines. I really, really like Dallas Raines. I think he's really good. He's very engaging. Oh, go ahead, Nate. You want to say something the opposite?
I met him at a Barron Services training seminar, and I'd had this vision of LA weather people as being, really, truly the blow-dried boobs. And I run into Dallas, who's telling me about his market and, how complex it is. And I realized that he's forgotten more about meteorology than I'll ever know, especially when it comes to dealing with all the different mesoscale environments that he has to deal with. I had a lot more respect for him and his LA colleagues after meeting him.
Yeah, well, I think he's really good. Some people, we have a number of weather readers on the air. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You can see them, and most times it's okay. But here's what's happened in the computer and graphics area. If you don't know anything about weather, it's really tough to fill that 2.5 minutes and not sound like a fool. And so I see you folks at home don't see this, but I'm watching everybody's camera, and I see head shaking up and down when I say that. Look, you don't have to be a meteorologist. You really don't. But if you're not, then you better at least understand a little bit about what you're talking about, because otherwise you're doing a disservice to our viewers. Let me tell you who else is very good in this market.
Well, wait, before we move on, I pulled up a picture of Dallas from his Twitter feed. Is that his real hair?
Yes. Yes.
Have you actually tugged on it to see if that thing comes off?
But Dallas is also known for his stance, which I sometimes do too. He kneels, he bends, because he covers up and down on that weather map. Yeah, and electric blue. He's wearing electric blue. Like his suits sometimes look like they have to be charged at night. He also, there you go. No, that's the picture. James, that's what I'm talking about. See, he does that. I do that also, but I think that Dallas, and by the way, for those who don't know, Dallas and Flip Spiceland were the original two meteorologists on CNN when it first signed on.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember that. That was like back in the 80s.
Wow, when you were in middle school, James?
No, I was doing weather on television back then. So that's Dallas Rain. So tell us about the other people.
Well, like for instance, when I did Mississippi State, and when I did my Mississippi State graduation, and by the way, doing Mississippi State when you're in your 50s is probably different than doing Mississippi State when you're in your 20s. Because I realized that everything that I was doing there could have a really good positive effect on me. It was extremely important for me that my 3 years, 53 credits were really meaningful. And I worked my butt off to make sure that that was the case. At the graduation, I met Maria Caban, who is maybe among the top 1 or 2 most beautiful, physically beautiful women I have ever met in my entire life. She is so spectacularly beautiful that I literally had to look away or I would be staring inappropriately. She's
all right,
really...
Somebody get her on this show.
And you know what? I think she would, because she does tech segments and all sorts of stuff. She's another person who really cares about the viewers, provides actionable information to her viewers, and I think she's great.
Cool. All right. Well, let's do picks of the week here. And again, I've got to do television, and again, we're going to try and get out on time tonight. I obviously am not in my TV duds here. Now, by the way, Jeff, when do you go on when do you do your next segment in your studio there? Just
9 o'clock.
Curiosity.
9 o'clock Pacific. We are on our secondary station. So we have a 9 o'clock newscast that we do on that station.
Okay, cool. So you got a few minutes here. So we're gonna do picks of the week, and again, we'll come back and do an email segment, a quadruple email segment next week, because we got a lot of good email. I mean, we've had some good ones, but Aubrey will take care of that next week. But this is picks of the week. This is where we go around the horn and share something related to weather. This can be a website, hardware, software, instruments, books, anything vaguely related to weather. And as we often do, let's start with Skydaver and the Fog Bank.
Initiating startup sequence.
Hello, WeatherBrains listeners. This is Dave Phillips, Skydaver on Twitter. First, a public service announcement. If you get an email with an attachment saying it's Kanye West singing Bohemian Rhapsody, don't open it. It's Kanye West singing Bohemian Rhapsody. This week's Fog Bank all comes from Capital Weather Gang, mostly from the middle of June, but still good reads. They had a post with great pictures of the storms that went through the D.C. area on June 18th. Justin Greiser of Capital Weather Gang has a post about the summer solstice. They had severe thunderstorms in D.C. on another day, 22nd. My son lives up there. They've been getting pounded. And the next one is about hurricane force winds from a derecho in the Midwest. Then we've got one about aurora sightings in lower 48. And finally, an article about fantastic sunsets in the D.C. area, June 23rd. Got a bonus pick. The National Severe Storms Lab has an article on their Plains Elevated Convection at Night project. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's a very good name. Is it pecan or pecan? Thanks for listening. Skydaver out.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
All right, that's the question of the evening. Pecan or pecan? Brian Peters, what do you say?
When I lived in Vermont, it was pecan.
Pecan.
No.
When I moved to Florida, it was pecan.
Pecan, yes, that's what they call it in Florida there, Brian.
Yes.
All right, so Brian Peter, what's your pick of the week? What you got for us?
My pick of the week is an interesting tweet posted by the SPC folks. It shows this squall line that sort of resembled a derecho, but wasn't a derecho. And over its 700-mile trek in an 18-hour period, and it's a bunch of radar images, and it's I found it quite fascinating, so that'll be my pick.
And if you don't know, all of these links will be up on the website, weatherbrains.com, in our show notes, so you don't have to jot it down or try and remember it as you're driving. If you're listening to this, it'll be up on the website. So thank you very much, and let's see here. John Scala, what's your pick of the week?
Well, in my effort to be the educator on this program, I've decided to pull up an article that appeared recently in Physics Today. This is actually a fantastic publication. I've actually used it in teaching. And we've been talking a little bit about El Nino and the tropical season. Well, one of the big modulators of tropical weather is the Madden-Julian oscillation. And there's an excellent summary article talking about what is the MJO and how it was discovered and what role does it play in tropical convection. So that's my pick. It's this article, which I think you'll enjoy.
Awesome. And again, that's a great piece right there. All right, so let's see here. Let's go to Nate Johnson for Nate's pick of the week.
The Japanese Meteorological Agency recently put a new weather satellite into orbit.
Yeah.
And it gave us some just incredible pictures. It can take a full disk image every 10 minutes. Yeah. And the New York Times put up John Scala's got that up, put up an animation of the first day's worth of that with Typhoon Chanhun and Typhoon Nanka, and it was just incredible. And the two things that stuck out at me, number one, how thin the atmosphere is, and two, how fluid everything is. When you get that kind of temporal resolution, it is incredible. I put that up on a large monitor in the office, and I think I lost about an hour's worth of productivity because I was entranced. So pull that up, put it on the biggest monitor you can, blow it up full screen, turn out the lights, and just enjoy it.
And get ready to go, ooh.
Yes.
For those watching the show here, John had that thing pulled up. That is just awesome. All right, so let's go over to Jeff. Jeff, you've got me screen shared. That's creepy.
No.
There we go.
I want to put in a plug for BuffKit. I have been with so many meteorologists who don't use BuffKit, and it just drives. Yes, please. It just drives me nuts. But I want to show you guys a quick comparison. This is the standard look that I use with BuffKit, with the precipitation in green. That's Cape coming out from the bottom, temperature and dew point, and clouds. So this is BuffKit for Bradley Airport in just north of Hartford, Connecticut. Let's contrast it with Palm Springs. Hold on, here we go. And here's Palm Springs.
Wow.
However, let me talk about, for those of you who have never used BuffKit, the one thing that you have to get used to is, for whatever reason, it was written so it goes from right to left.
Right.
The current time is on the right side of the screen. The future is on the left.
Because the future comes at you typically west to east, and so that's how meteorologists we look at things as systems moving essentially left to right on your computer monitor.
That's I worship at Ed Mahoney's feet, but this is crazy. And Ed Mahoney is the guy responsible for this for the Weather Service. It is free. It's available to everyone. The data is free, and it's just an unbelievable tool. But this comes back to what I was talking about before. Guys, you notice how on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday there's QPF 29/100ths of an inch for the Palm Springs area. Now, I can tell you that that's probably not going to happen, but this is one of those cases where our valley, our little Coachella Valley, just is not comported in these long-range models like the GFS, which is what I'm demonstrating here. So you have to, even on day 5, 6, and 7, go in and massage these a lot, because there are things that because as a human, there are mountains there that the computer doesn't know.
You've gone from the LFM and having to cut the precip in half to doing the same thing with the models here.
Yeah,
here in 2015.
Though the HRRR, and there's a government agency that runs a 2-kilometer version of the wharf. Those are very helpful, but they go out a much shorter period of time.
All right, Kevin Selly, I see you got a pick for us this week.
I did. I had a video. It's a tornado in Italy, which is greatly enhanced by the Italian that is spoken in this. And the guy, it really makes it much more fun. This guy drives right up to the thing and then decides, wait a minute, I might be too close, and then drives in reverse for at least a mile. And it's fun to watch.
And again, all of these are going to be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. So, Jeff, plug away, man. Plug Twitter, plug TV, whatever you want to plug. This is the plug segment, so go.
All right. Well, if you have any questions about my home studio, how that's done, how you could do one yourself, how your TV station could do one, or how your TV station could use me, I don't care. It's my name, at GEOFFFOX, 3 F's in a row. My parents made it exceptionally difficult. Or pretty much anything on the internet with Jeff Fox in it, me at jefffox.com or jefffox@gmail. The other people with the name Jeff Fox, all of whom, by the way, are much smarter and more accomplished than me, aren't as fast as I am with getting URLs and email addresses.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, listen, again, based on the fact that we are so close, we have got to wrap this show up here. But here's the deal. WeatherBrains is typically done Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. You can listen, watch live. Most people do it at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. By the way, some of the guys in the chat room over there found a dew point of 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a fountain of knowledge as well. But if you want to find us, just go to weatherbrains.com. The show notes are there. All the picks of the week are there. Our social media accounts. But our general email address is email@weatherbrains.com. And we promise with all of our hearts we'll spend a lot of time on email next week with Aubrey. So we'll look for you next week. Got some great shows coming up. Bill is not here. Bill is the guest booking officer. Bill has a cold this week. He is out. He should be back next week, but I know a lot of really cool guests are coming up, so hope to see you soon. If you listen by iTunes, we love those iTunes comments. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening, and God bless. Woo! Hit the stinger.
You hit the post.
Hit the post, baby. Hit the post. All right, guys.
I smell radio there.
Yeah, I used to do it when I was a kid. I got to change clothes. Thanks, guys. You'll have a great week.
See you later.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for having me on, guys. I enjoy